That's why we stay here.
30 seconds to before takeoff. Hello, everyone. Seeing people joining this session. Hello, everyone. Hello, Ralph. Great to have you all here. Thank you very much for joining this session. We're really delighted to be exploring the digital transformation and experience from real use cases this afternoon. We have 3 outstanding speakers to join us this afternoon for this session. I'd like to introduce, in the first place, Michal Christofek, who's a Chief Legal Officer at ESET, who's a Slovak unicorn and leading international company in cybersecurity. We also have thank you for being with us, Michal. We also have Bruno Marcello, Director of Program Management for Legal Profession and lecturer at the University and the Executive School of St. Gallen. Thank you, Bruno, for being with us as well. And Jeroen Svers, who's the founder of Noun Legal, a legal innovation agency, founder also of the Dutch Legal Tech, and vice president of the European Legal Tech Association. Jeroen, always amazing to have you with us. Thank you for being there. So I'd like to get started. We'll have this session. It's really an interactive session again. So please feel free, on the right side of your screen, you have a Q&A box. Feel free to pop some questions. We'll try to answer them during the conversation, or at least to go for it at the end of this session. We'll have a discussion about many different aspects of this digital program and the innovation that is driving legal professionals right now. We'll go through 2 presentations to have really a high-level intro with Bruno, and then really real use cases with Michal. Bruno, I'll hand it over to you, so you can maybe take us through these couple of slides.
Thank you, Greg. Just checking it works. Excellent. A second. Here we go. All right, hope it works. For the next 6 to 8 minutes, I would like to give you a high-level overview of what I understand when somebody asks me what means legal transfer or digital transformation in the legal department. Well, let's start with that to see what this may mean. Digital transformation is more than just simply using emails or a website or being active on social media or building an application or buying simply an application from a third party. It requires comprehensive thinking. It requires to think strategically and to execute. Overall, it means work and not just buying something. Let me show you on the pyramid of trends which are usually used to explain what is going on in the legal market, where actually legal or digital transformation really leaves an impact. It starts, of course, in the market where we talk about technology overall. But this is not all when we talk about digital transformation. It has a direct impact on the liberalization trends in the market that we can see that when new players come into play, who actually use more than the traditional lawyers, digital tools, technology, process-driven approaches, and so on. Not enough that customers, and in particular legal departments, then they have an ongoing challenge when it comes to be more efficient. Normally, we speak here about doing more for less. But usually I also am satisfied if we see at least the same for less or more for the same. And last, here on the customer side, also this will leave a direct impact on operations. It's not so much a topic of legal topics which we see, but more on operational topics. And what we have seen now the last few months is here with Corona pandemia is that it has a direct impact on people. So we talk about leadership here. When it comes to new generations, we expect actually that technology plays a different play in a legal department, but also with other providers. Now, let's move on and have a quick look on the three key providers here in the market. Who provides legal services? We have law firms, we have legal departments, and the so-called alternative legal service providers, which are the big four, the legal arms of the big four, which are insurance protection providers, new law providers, legal tech providers, all in this orange part. And I would like to show you in 7 steps actually how I see what legal transformation really makes. We have on the first hand side the good news. Legal transformation or digital transformation, will cause more work for lawyers. So that's the good news actually. There will be still need for lawyers in the future. Who is working in ITC law may have maybe a bigger impact in this regard. Second step will be that the customer will push the legal departments first to provide more risk management driven advice. That means they have also at the same time look into the operational part and provide more efficient advice. And who knows, this may be a chance also for litigation finance to provide a little bit more support here. Step 3 will be that the legal departments themselves will have a more thorough look into resource management. Knowledge management remains a key topic to keep the knowledge inside, and the pressure for efficiency will force them in particular to look into operations. Maybe they will have chief digital officer or at least an operations manager who runs the business of the legal department. They themselves will, step 4, push law firms. They will push them for more efficiency, be it looking into alternative fee arrangements, be it looking into legal tech support, which may hopefully make the service received from law firms faster, maybe even better, but in any way, hopefully a little bit cheaper than otherwise. Now, step 5, we have seen already the emergence, the mushrooming of these alternative legal service providers, in particular also in the legal tech area. They will try to eat into the cake of law firms. They will offer their services instead of the law firms. That means for legal departments that they will have to look into a resourcing. That means shift work, which they had given usually to law firms, to these alternative providers. However, that is something which often goes forgotten, that the alternative legal service providers will also try to win some cake of the legal departments. So they will bite into this as well and try to replace that. For law firms, that means they will outsource. So in number 5, we had resourcing from law firms to the alternatives. In step 6, it will be an outsourcing that they will provide it out to the other ones. Last but not least, the 7th step is there in the corner where all 3 legal service providers come together. I call it the sweet spot. If somebody can serve this spot, I think everybody will be very grateful in the market because they don't have to mix and match all themselves. That's it for a first intro on my side.
Thank you very much, Bruno, for this first intro and high-level view of this digital transformation. And I'd like to hand it over now to Michal. So maybe you could take us through your experience, Michal, and what you had the opportunity to do at ESET.
Thank you very much. I have a tech. Oh, maybe okay. No, it's okay. Just a second.
Sure.
Let me know when you see. Do you see the presentation now?
Absolutely. Wonderful.
Yes?
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you very much for the introduction and for the introduction into the topic in more generic way by Bruno. Now I would like to give you a snapshot of our journey from the paper age through an unplanned disruption and into a managed move into a digital future. So, well, first of all, we all know the paper age, right? So what it meant for us. It was, we had a paper workflow of internal approvals on contract summary form. These have been handwritten, signed, moved from one department to another department, then to the signatory and so on. And there was a lack of visibility where the contract approval is, when the contract was actually signed and so on. Then the handwritten signature of the signatory, and we have a couple of hundreds of contracts per year. So it was quite a difficult tracking of the flow of the contract before.
Michel,
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Could you maybe swap screens? I believe we're seeing the other side,
Okay,
not the presentation mode, but the presenter mode. Yeah.
Sorry.
Any good online meeting should have its own technical issues. We're all used to it for the past 20 months, right? So that's part of it.
Okay. All right, sorry.
Yes. Sharing again might work. Yes. Slightly better. Yes, much better. Thank you, Michel. Much better.
All right, sorry. So hopefully it works now. All right. Hello.
Very good, Michel. Yes. All good.
Good. Okay. So we then started the tender for the electronic legal management or enterprise legal management software before year-end 2019, but it wasn't the priority, so we moved slow. And then obviously what happened was March 2021 happened and Corona crisis came here, and it was practically impossible to continue with our paper workflow, because it meant printing and scanning and sending the approvals to another approver, or substitute this workflow by email approvals, and so this was not a way to go. So what then happened? We moved very quickly into an electronic signature process. We moved, we can say, fast and furious, and within a matter of a few weeks, we have been able to go from 100% paper into 100% digital with regards to this one small step, which is the signing and the approving of the contract. So nowadays we have almost 100% of the contracts signed electronically, but 100% of the contracts are approved in DocuSign. So it was a huge step into this digital legal world. It was very successful, but still it was just one step of this whole contract life cycle that we managed to digitalize very quickly. So what we have been still missing, obviously, was that whole solution, and especially the database with active management notifications and all the other nice features. So we continued with our tender process, and we opted for Wolters Kluwer with the Legisway solution. And in the next couple of slides, I will just briefly tell you about what have been the sample of our business requirements, or what we have been looking for in such a solution. So primarily, as I already said, it was this very active management of signed contracts with reliable notification throughout the life cycle, be it in a drafting process, but more importantly, after the contract is signed, to receive all the proper notification about the automatic renewal that is upcoming, or potential expiry of the contract. We also looked for the one source of contract accessible to every stakeholder at any time, as this was one of the things that we have been badly missing, that everyone was working in the paperage and in this lack of the proper database with their contract version stored somewhere. So there have been multiple repositories throughout the company. Another feature was a full online collaboration. Right now, we actually use a partially developed solution that we combine Legisway and via a link we online collaborate in SharePoint using Word Online, and then we go back into Legisway and follow the process there. So we really look forward for the implementation of Teamdocs, a new feature in Legisway that will come to our environment in the next few months as a part of the upgrades to version 5.3. The online approval process was another business requirement. We sort of use two approval processes. One is, let's say, informal during the drafting process, that is the built-in workflow in Legisway, and for the formal final approvals before the signatory signs the contracts, we use the approver process that we build in DocuSign. And with regards to some other features that we have been looking for, it's some nice reports. Obviously, the e-signature implementation within Legisway, which is with DocuSign, and effective complex search and so on. Looking a little bit outside of the life cycle of the contracts, we also wanted, if possible, to have one source for all legal agenda, not only contracts, also supporting functional and requests for advice, IPR model, litigation, corporate, and all of that working in a coherent and interlinked way. One business requirement where we are still are a bit not in a stage we would like to be is the substitution of our ticketing system. So we managed to move all traffic with regards to contract requests or amendment requests into Legisway, but we are still looking for the enhancements to have also full proper ticketing possibility, allowing multiple person communication that is fully tracked, showing status of the ticket in Legisway. So that will hopefully get via the enhancements. And to conclude, we are still on the road to complete this move of our company into digital world. It was a difficult project and required lots of effort on side of the legal department, also other stakeholders in the company, and we look forward to implement the upgrade to 5.3 with Teamdocs and artificial intelligence, and then in-house to complete working with the legacy contracts that we have also imported into Legisway, so that we will have really complete the move into this digital world. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michal, for a very really pragmatic and very clear approach to your project. I like it very much, and very nice slides, by the way. I'd like to now ask Jeroen to have his views, because this was really a really clear and pragmatic approach. I believe Michal also had the opportunity and the time to process really some kind of a long-term plan, and he has some real visibility over what he wants to do in the not only in the coming months, what he wants to do now, but also in the coming years. On your side, Jeroen, what do you see as what are your views a bit on a project of this kind, and what would be really the important aspect of driving change in-house with what you're doing, the kind of experience that you have, so many in-house legal teams you're advising? What's your take on this? Help you still mute, Jeroen.
Yes, I'm there. So you see, first, thank you for inviting me here, Greg. I think the practical approach which Michael shows is quite good, but you see a lot of movement also on what I call the buzzword bingo. So I see a lot of questions coming my side in, Jeroen, what kind of AI tools should we use? And I would say that's not a good starting point. Mostly I say I'm not the Amazon of legal tech and don't serve the wave of the media buzzword in this. The AI is not a starting point. I would say the best way is to embed it in your strategy as a corporate, but the practical way is also a good way. So I would suggest start analyzing the workload of your CLD. What is your commodity part? What is your high-end part? And when you look at your commodity part, what could bring you? What could tools bring you in that? For instance, mostly, and I did a lot of transformations from corporate legal departments. Mostly, we start with self-service tools because they bring a lot of benefit to the business. And it's quite easy to implement those kind of tools. For instance, when you look at corporate contract reviewing of more commodity contracts like NDAs, DPA kind of contracts, which is quite easy to analyze with tools on the market like Lin Legal. But also when you look at the more chatbot side, which you can use on onboarding or creating better compliance. Joseph is there a great tool in. That's a good way to start with. It will give you a much better response to your business. I saw in my business, for instance, we bring that from 3 weeks to 10 minutes. For instance, it will give you much more insight of your business also. What is your risk appetite as a corporate? And what kind of volume are you moving also as a corporate department? Because many corporate departments don't know. So that would be a great topic to start with.
Excellent. Michel also mentioned something very important, which is the really legacy data, and that's actually a huge part of the project. Actually, there are many different ways to handle properly data migration. I tend to believe that there's one way to fail it. It's maybe just getting concerned a bit too late on the data migration part. Is this something you also see, Jeroen? How do you handle with legacy data? What's already in there, and actually the massive amount of information, especially after 20 months of COVID, we now have a pretty good idea that we also need to withdraw and re-extract information out of massive amounts of paper and document lost in shared drives. How do you advise your legal departments?
I would say start small, and there is legacy, sure there is, but start small and create a burden proof in that legal tech is working for you as a department. Don't start with the Moloch kind of projects in this sense. What is important that you choose good tools which are connected to your backend. Mostly I see like Salesforce, for instance, it's common use. So, but don't start with that big legacy system. Start small with the self-service systems, I would say.
Indeed, big birds don't fly, right? That's what we say.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
By the way, we had a question from Michel. We had a question from Hub here. Yes. If you could tell us more maybe on how you linked SharePoint with your project.
Sure. As part of the project, we have set quite a long list of different customizations that Legisweden did for us. And one of these things have been to figure out actually how we would collaborate. And at the end of the day, it's actually very simple. Because it's just one text field that is in the Legisway platform, where we put a link into a SharePoint file. So it's the field says review contract here, and then the user simply clicks there, goes to SharePoint, and we have set up the SharePoint area so that the properly is accessible to those who should access. And then all the flow happens there, the online collaboration. And when something needs to be done with regard to workflow approval and so on, then the person goes back into Legislate. So it's very simple.
Very clear. Thank you for clarifying, Michal. And by the way, what was really the starting point of your project? What really triggered this digital transformation?
Well, I kind of felt that our lack of capability to really properly manage signed contracts and to have a clear and good overview which contracts expire when the out renewals are due, and to receive notifications about that. It was simply this. I would say this was the main need that triggered that I wanted to have a solution, and I knew that there must be some solutions. So then I looked for some ranks or rankings like in Gartner, Forrester, and so on, and I started to explore this area and start to look for the solution. What else can easily offer?
Very well. Well, you were somehow lucky enough to get started a bit before really COVID could kick in and start challenging and really deploying this huge stress test for digital processes in all organizations. And we've all learned somehow many different lessons from 20 months now of COVID and working online and collaborating online. It's really drastically changed the way we are exchanging information, especially for legal professionals. What would be for all of you the lessons learned of this COVID period? What really changed for legal professionals now? Are we any closer to a more pragmatic approach? Kieran, you were mentioning that we were serving a lot of buzzwords and people were looking more at technology than really practical technology that really fit with their needs. What do you see as a really important lesson learned here?
The big thing, I'm doing this for 10 years now for corporate legal and law firms. And what I see that budgets, especially on the CLD side, are much more easier now than, let's say, 8 years ago. It's much more common as a CLD to have an IT budget, which isn't. It's quite new, I would say. And there was a breakthrough on the CLD side, I would say. A different thing is that what you also see is that when you look at change and transformation in the legal spectrum, the CLDs are driving that change and not the law firms. They come out of COVID much more traditional, I would say, than the CLDs. So I would say the CLDs are educating those law firms. That's what I'm currently seeing, and that's quite good to see. So they enforce their clients, or they enforce their law firms to drive change also, and that's a good change I see.
Yeah, Bruno, you said something during our prep call regarding this huge change. You mentioned something very true, that the legal department is at the very beginning of the food chain of the legal industry. What are for you these lessons learned of this period?
Well, there are different lessons learned. One is that technology that legal departments or law firms or whoever, they realized if they were not prepared, they didn't have the technology. That I talk about the hard tools, actually. They were just screwed up. We learned also that technology can make a change and you can survive. However, what we also learned, which is not yet on the surface, is that actually the human resources have become much more important. Think about trusting your employee at home. The employee is asking for this new work, things which nobody wants to have somehow. So we have to manage also the human resources at the same time. When you talk about legal departments at the food chain, I think that law firms, or also some, but not all, alternative legal service providers, they need some nudging from the customer who has the purse if they want them to change.
Very good. Very good. No, and if we look at this period, we also tend to see that there's also a huge change in the perception of the legal technology tools out there in the market. And also that's what you were saying, Jeroen, that we had before some kind of approach to technology that was based on what kind of legal information we need to handle versus the kind of technology that we could put on top of that kind of legal management. Where now we tend to look apparently at something which is more ROI based, looking more at how much time and how efficient can I be in my organization implementing that kind of tool, and no longer actually I have this very nice glittering piece of technology that I'd like to plug into my organization, but really in a different way. Michel, what is your view? Did you see any kind of change also within your team on how maybe some of your peers, and on how is your perception of legal technology after this 20 months of working differently?
Right, thank you. I think the biggest change is really that I would say that the paper age is dead for managing the legal department, because maybe when we will all get past this current crisis and Corona will be a new normal and we'll all be back in the offices, then it will be change a bit. But considering that most of the companies operated on 100% home offices, whenever you were supposed to work with the paper that you have had in the office, being it a book, a commentary to the law, or a contract, you were screwed. So basically that was the main paradigm shift that happened. Unfortunately, maybe we are not maybe, but we are a very tech-savvy company, obviously being one of the leaders in the cybersecurity industry. And we managed to really change from 2 home office in a month into 100% home office working environment in a matter of weeks, and without any significant disruption. And part of it was that change that I mentioned, a change to the DocuSign, and simply out of a couple of contracts that have been signed electronically before by someone else triggering the DocuSign process, suddenly 100% having there. So that was the incorporation and acceptance of this part was like very good and very successful and quick, swift, smooth, perfect. What is the bigger change is then everything around it, like this whole process is with the legislate, and the whole end-to-end process having in a different way so that it works in this online world. So there we see some, let's say, reluctance that this is now more difficult than it used to be, and so on. So yeah, the adoption of the technology is in some areas good and very easy. In some areas, it's more challenging, let's say.
Jeroen, did you see any changes in this perception of legal technology? Obviously, I think this period also helped us go a bit through and beyond this myth of the robot lawyer and all this stuff, getting a bit more pragmatic and clearer on what AI, for example, is doing for lawyers. We all went through looking for force majeure clauses in contracts, so we tend to have a better understanding of what exactly that kind of tool can do for us. But how is this changing a bit the perception of your customers?
Yeah, there's a lot of talk of legal tech, but mostly it isn't legal tech. Most of my conversation starts with legal departments, and we talk about document management, which is not in my perception. I'm not sure what Bruno thinks about this, but it's not legal tech in my sense. But it's quite normal, and we have to also to understand we are still in the beginning of our new development. We are still in the downside curve, and it's growing and it's getting more professional. So exactly when you look at AI, there's a lot of talk about AI. For many years, we talk about AI and the myth of the robot lawyer. And currently, the last year, you see usable AI for legal, I would say. There was some AI, AI is also a container word, I would say. But you see it now more common in legal. For instance, I implemented some systems for contract reviewing, algorithmic search, so it can help you with better search or find better documents, for instance. That's more general AI for legal. That is usable, but robots who do your work, maybe partly as a first line review of a contract, but not. It will not take over. It's nonsense.
Not take over, but can significantly help, like with this feature that the Legisway has, and we are looking forward to that. It is in the upcoming version. It will significantly save our time by documenting these contracts and extracting the metadata from the contracts into the workable database, right? And that's already a huge saving of time for a lawyer.
I call that it will augment the lawyer, and it will not kill a lawyer. It will augment the lawyer, and that's exactly what it will do.
Absolutely. And I hear also from what you say, Jeroen, that there is some kind of back to the basics for legal professionals, actually going through all this period challenge their internal organization and their processes. So they are now looking again to strengthen the very basics of the organization, and this might be some kind of confusion between really the office tech and the legal tech.
Yeah, exactly. There's maybe also a merger between office tech and legal tech, I would say. When you look at the last 2 years, there was a lot of work done in teams. And a legal tech is approaching teams, for instance. How you can do your legal tech from teams. But there's you do your Word and your Excel, and you're working with teams, and you have your specific legal technology which help you in your legal practice, and that's what I call legal tech. So there's a big difference in there. Everybody calls it legal tech because it helps the legal profession, but there's a big difference in there, I would say.
What is your view on this, Bruno? How do you see this this mix between two different levels of technology and this way of going back to the basics?
I fully agree what has been said so far. So only because a legal function uses technology doesn't mean that it becomes legal technology in that regard. And just take all the communication which is going on. So let's think about email, sending emails, maybe using WhatsApp. Maybe we are already there that we communicate with our clients through WhatsApp. Take smartphones, take whatsoever. So whatever has to do with communication, this is just a convenience factor. This is not legal tech. So we have to communicate somehow in this regard. Let me give you a different example going back to my start of my legal career when I started as a trainee some 25 years ago. At that time, I'm so old already, computers were introduced actually in law firms. So every lawyer received a computer. Half of them hated it because they thought lawyers don't communicate with emails, and they used then the computers, the big blocks, as an extended sort of paper depository to put it on top. And when my computer didn't come, I asked, guys, when does my computer come? They took a voice recorder, a small one, a dictaphone, small recorder, put it on my desk and said, you are a lawyer, you have to learn to dictate. So what has happened so far? Well, I used computers before because I wrote myself my doctoral thesis, so I didn't understand what's going on, but that was a different topic. Now, today, lawyers use actually an application, a voice recorder application, which actually recognizes their voice and different spelling and so on. So what has changed is actually that the assistants and secretaries were moved out of law firms, for example. So this is, to some extent, going rather into a direction of legal tech because technology is actually changing the business model, how law firms work. So it's still communication to some extent, but it changes what the tasks are at the end. Will technology fully replace lawyers? I think this is a silly question. As long as we put it as an alternative, both, this doesn't work. It's an and technology will, of course, replace certain tasks a lawyer may do, but not all tasks need to be done by a lawyer, so it's irrelevant.
Yes, for the sake of efficiency, we need to implement some pieces of technology to start giving some autonomy, and it's also a matter, I guess, of giving more responsibility to internal requesters, to internal customers. Michel, how was this? How are you actually giving some responsibility to your internal customers? Because I'm sure there's a lot to do to automate, to really have some kind of level, some layer of do-it-yourself in the organization. Because obviously it's very easy to just ring the legal department and ask for another NDA, and,
Right.
and so how do you do this to have this kind of responsibility sharing?
Right. Yeah, I want to be respond firstly a little bit broadly that we are in the first place encourage them to really be the proper owners of the contracts, right? Because with the tool that they have when they really have the access to their contracts anytime, anywhere, then they really can satisfy their ownership responsibility and be able to really manage the contracts, be on top of them. Because let's be honest, like some people did that okay with the previous in the previous age, but others simply they didn't care much about that. What was in the contract, it was not somewhere in their domain. It was somewhere else in the legal department. They didn't care. So this is one change of the, let's say, perspective that we are doing. And with regards to automation, yes, with regards to obviously different template contracts, it's part, you can have different setups between like ask the legal department to provide me to having a place to go for an actual version of the template, or up to the let's say integration of the template with the data that I provide into a tool, and then having immediately a full contract template with the contracting party data and so on. So that's right now it's up to this stage, I would say, the automation of the cooperation between owner and the legal department.
I believe we also had a question for you, Michel, asking whether you were talking about this feature on Legisway to extract information from contract, yes, to incorporate it into dossiers. Could you tell us a bit more about what is the really the kind of approach, and how do you expect to leverage this internally?
Right. Maybe it would be even better to be responded by you, but because it's your. I'm not sure. So I take this as a customer perspective. So there is this artificial intelligence deployed with the version 5.3 of Legisway, which is capable of checking the either PDF or doc version of the contract and extracting the given parameters. So you can have 10-15 parameters of the contracts, like what are the contracting parties, the expiry of the contract, the termination, governing law, and so on and so on. And this tool is obviously already has learned something about these different clauses, and quite skillfully is able to extract this data from the tool, and gives you also the indication where the AI is like very confident about the quality of the data that extracted, or where it has some doubts, and then you can help it tune it for the future purposes by confirming yes or no whether the answer was correct. So this is this would help us to sidestep actually the entering of these data, figuring out where they are in the contract and entering them into the contract module in Legisway.
Thank you for clarifying. It's always interesting to hear how you perceive also the functionalities of the software on the customer side. That's also how we designed it for a solution. Maybe an additional question for all of you. How are in-house lawyers then really leading digital transformation, and what do you see as future trends now? What's coming up? Maybe Bruno, you can share a couple of things with your own.
Bruno?
Well, some more trends which may come. When we talk about technology, I think we had the phase now of mushrooming all these incredible, interesting, but extremely numerous legal tech companies and applications coming up. So it's difficult really to decide to take one or the other one. What we see now, however, is that all this orange part of alternatives, they are trying to consolidate. Some of them come together, they pull forces together, may have in the next wave maybe a better approach to the market. So it will be easier for legal departments hopefully to buy something because it makes a little bit more sense. It's not this kind of startup feeling anymore. It's maybe more mature. At the end, hopefully number 3 will be that they will cover the sweet spot, that they will offer services which pool services from law firms, alternatives, and legal departments together to some extent, and provide actually some kind of service from one hand, actually. That is the way how I would see it, but it will take, I think, a week or 2 until we get there.
Very well. Jeroen, your take?
Yeah, the good thing is that the market is getting more mature now. So, like I said, I'm doing this. I did Nike 8 years ago for transformation, and there was a big discussion there. The discussion is not that much anymore, I would say. I do not have to convince a general counsel or a CFO to do this. When you look at technology, where are the trends? Yeah, obviously AI, but it's coming very slowly, I would say. We need big data sets for that, especially also startups. CLM is still a trend, I would say. Legisway is there a good example in. And platforms, I would say. You see a lot of platform initiatives coming around, Rain and Court, Loophole, and it's a collaboration between law firms and their clients. I see that also as a good movement. But like I said, it's good to see that the CLDs are moving innovation, and it's very focused on efficiency, I would say, which is good, and it's mostly initiated by the CFO, which is a very process thinker more than the legal team is, what I see. But that's a good movement, and finally also the law firms have to move, because like I said, they're still in the traditional model and the hourly rate.
Thank you, Jeroen. Being a bit mindful of time, as we have a bit less than 3 minutes left before we have to split to get to virtual classrooms. Maybe one last thing, if you could give a very brief tip to in-house legal teams going digital. Maybe starting with you, Michal. What would be your best tip?
Well, I would say that go for electronic signature and electronic approval. That's like the number one change that helped us over this last 18 months.
Very good one. Jeroen?
Talk to specialists and experts in the market to how to onboard this, because when you look at the vendors in the market, I would say 60% is not suitable for using in your legal department. So talk to experienced people and let them advise you.
Bruno, what would be your advice?
Well, be curious, be courageous to take decision on insufficient data, and expect to make mistakes, because you will for sure make them, and it will cost maybe something, but that's the only way to stay on top of the curve and innovate. It's part of the deal. Indeed,
it's a bumpy road and complex sometimes. lot of things to consider before really going fully digital. So I guess as we say, the toothpaste is out of the tube, and I guess there's no way to put it back in on digital innovation for legal professionals. I see Ralph here joining us. Ralph, thank you. Before handing it over to you, just really warmly thanking our panelists for this great talk.
Well, pleasure.
Thank you, Greg. And indeed, what an interesting session this was, with a lot of insights, some theoretical insights from Bruno on the 7 steps of the digital transformation, the experienced story of Michel with ESET and their road towards digitization, and then Jeroen with a lot of pragmatic and holistic insights on legal tech and how this is evolving. Now I would like to invite you all to the first round of the virtual classrooms. Each of the sessions dives deeper into some aspects of the transformation. Again, to join, click on the Sessions tab on the right side of the screen, or just head back to Agenda and join the session you have registered for. I wish you an interesting session.
Thank you all, and have